So yesterday's session was more about the insights related to cloud only. What is cloud? What we would be covering in this course? Why we need the cloud? So reasons to move out from normal applications to cloud applications. So more a kind of technical, not pure technical, more a kind of non-technical discussion. I mean, you can go back to the YouTube recording, or if you have enrolled for this, hey Sunita, might be you have enrolled for this, so you can go back and check the recordings. That won't be a
Yeah,
problem.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so to continue with yesterday's discussion, we can maybe we have seen the importance of few services which are present in cloud: the infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. So we have seen the importance, we have seen few insights related to these three services which are present in cloud. Now, basically, every service comes with certain advantage and certain disadvantages. Now, what advantages we have, what disadvantages we have, maybe we can have a glance of it. Maybe we can understand some basic idea related to why infrastructure as a service is good, or maybe there are a few limitations in infrastructure as a service also. So that we would be discussing. And then moving further, we would see how the cloud services work. I mean, what all steps we need to follow to access any specific cloud service. How, I mean, what all components are part of this cloud services, how that cloud service hierarchy flows. So all that discussion we would be seeing going further. So to get started with, see, infrastructure as a service, as we have discussed, let's see one example with respect to our daily use case. I mean, how our daily use case happens with this infrastructure as a service. So let's see that. So if you take a look at this diagrammatic representation will give you a better understanding. In case of infrastructure as a service, we have an option to manage servers. I mean, you can personally go back and manage how your servers are working. Where do you want to upload this server? Where do you want the server to be active? Where do you want the server to be inactive? What is the performance of the server depending on what kind of memory, what kind of CPU you are assigning? So all these processes can be managed manually using infrastructure as a service. You have a flexibility to manage storage as well. I mean, whatever we are managing in terms of storage, it is also an infrastructure, right? Because we are managing the infrastructure, storage infrastructure. If you want to connect your storage with your cloud systems, there needs to be a server, there needs to be a networking, the internet. So all these processes which can be manually managed with terms of infrastructure, with terms of what we have in cloud, which can be managed as an infrastructure. It might be server, networking, storage, or virtualization. How many virtual machines you want to connect, how many virtual machines you want to create, and maybe you want to connect it as one single virtual machine to a bulk of other servers. So all that processes which can be managed as an infrastructure related entity is called as infrastructure as a service. So all these parts are called as infrastructure as a service. Now coming down, in case of platform, see, in case of platform, this infrastructure is not managed. In case of platform, we only get a platform where we can do our development. So you can manage your software, you can manage your operating system. It might be any operating system, and you can manage what is the runtime. Now, what do you mean by runtime is how that application is clubbed together and where do you are running it. I mean, in which specific operating system you're running it. You're getting a platform there. You cannot edit any infrastructure. You cannot handle any background infrastructure of it, but you can handle how that platform is running, how that application is running. So all these processes where application is running, you can manage that application. So somewhere managing the platform which you get is called as platform as a service. And only if you want to access the information present in that software, information present in that application, may not be complete application. You're looking out for any day-to-day applications, you're looking out for any gaming applications. So all these applications are part of software as a service. I mean, you cannot manage if you have downloaded any gaming application and that gaming application is somewhere connected to some virtual machine. It can be, it is somewhere connected to some server, and it is maybe a group of people can play it. So how that group of people are getting attached, how that people are from different parts of world, the infrastructure is getting attached, the server is getting attached. So all that processes, it is not managed by us. It is managed by the gaming application itself. So there we only get software. There we only get how to play that game. So that is one biggest example. Only to access that specific application or data present in that application is called as software as a service. If you are managing how that service is working, in which operating system you want to download it, in which maybe what kind of software is it, how to handle that software. More a kind of handling software is called as platform as a service. But apart from handling the software, you want to handle the background server for it. You want to handle the background storage for it, from which cloud service, what kind of information is being extracted. So more a kind of infrastructure related is access there. It is called as infrastructure as a service. Now, this might be again confusing. Let's take the real-time example. This is how it looks. So in case of infrastructure as a service, what is managed? Virtualization is managed, servers are managed, storage is managed, networking is managed. Whereas in case of platform, runtime, middleware, operating system. See, this is slightly different. If you take a comparison of this and this is slightly different. In case of infrastructure, this is completely managed by us, not the below components. Because in terms of day-to-day usage, in terms of our cloud services usage, this is how it looks like. The one which is colored in blue is managed by us. The one which is colored in orange is not managed by us. It is vice versa here. If you take a look, if you have, get the comparison between this and this specific image, there is slight difference. This is with respect to cloud services, not with respect to any application. Whichever cloud services we would be using going further, for them, this is how it works. If you have infrastructure, you can manage application, you can manage data, you can manage runtime, you can manage operating system, you can manage middleware. I'm not talking about any normal, maybe a gaming application, maybe any application which we're using on daily basis. This is with respect to cloud services, which we would be using going further. Now, in case of platform as a service, we can manage only application and data, nothing more than that. The one which is blue colored, it can be managed by us as an individual for all the services which are present in cloud. And at the last, software as a service, nothing is managed from us, neither application, neither data. Everything is completely managed by Microsoft. The Azure or Microsoft team, everything is managed by them in case of software as a service. There are many software as a service resources or services present in Azure cloud. So one by one, we would be seeing some importance, we would be seeing some advantages and disadvantages also, and what kind of services belongs to which category here, that also we would be discussing. So do not get confused with this and this. See, here in case of infrastructure, we are managing virtualization, we are managing servers, we are managing network, we are managing storage. Whereas if I go to the very next image, that 4 components are not managed by us. This is with respect to cloud services, not with respect to any random application. If you take a random application here, your gaming application, your day-to-day usage applications, your the taxi booking applications, so all that processes belongs to this example, this category. Whereas if I move to the cloud services, this is how cloud services or cloud resources are managed.
So it is basically when you take Azure services, you basically get these 3 service options that you can request for, is what you are explaining here, right?
Yep.
And one in the black, the previous image is basically definition of infrastructure software. I think it's just a basic definition. The previous.
Yep. It's a real-time or maybe day-to-day usage applications. This is how it looks like. But in case of cloud services, the other image gives you a better idea.
Okay. Yeah.
Any more questions on this? Not on this. This is more interesting.
Can you repeat once again, actually? Just to.
Okay. See, what example we have taken here. If you take an example, let's take an example. Now here with this, the image, we can take an example of gaming application, right? So in case of gaming application, somewhere that gaming application, they have a server connectivity from some part of the world that game is developed. From there, you are accessing it on your mobile. So you need to connect it via network. You need to connect it via server. What amount of server is best suitable. So all that is managed by the company which is developing that application. So more a kind of infrastructure for this application is managed by that organization or company which has developed. So infrastructure as a service in terms of gaming application or day-to-day application, it is managed by the company. Whereas platform as a service, where do you want to run it? I mean, where do you want to install that game? On which operating system? Might be your mobile also, Android operating system. Your laptops, your Mac, your Windows, your Linux machines. So more a kind of where do you want to install all that processes? Okay, as a user, we will get two advantages. You can use it as a platform, as a service also, because we get a platform, we get an operating system access. Where do you want to install or where we want to install that application? And at the end, after installing, we can use that application only for gaming purpose. The data present in that application can be used. So infrastructure is managed by organization who is developing this app. Platform is not managed by them because it is the user who wants to go back and who can install it wherever he wants. Once the installation is done, only he can access the gaming software in it. I mean, how that game is played or the data present in that application. That's it. So in case of gaming application, user manages software and user manages platform, whereas the company who has developed that specific game manages the infrastructure. So this is a basic example. You take an example of the taxi booking application also, even that is, I mean, it works in that same approach. Whereas if I move forward, if we are working on any cloud applications like ADF, like virtual machines, like Synapse, like Databricks, whatever services we would be using going further, for that services, this is the best example. In case of infrastructure, it is completely managed by the Azure or maybe the Microsoft team. Only which is blue in color is managed by us. In case of software, nothing is managed by us. So platform as a service is ADF. Example of platform as a service is ADF. Example of infrastructure as a service is your virtual machine. Now we have discussed this yesterday. In case of software as a service, not the applications which we would be using are called as software as a service, because the applications or the apps or the services which we are going to cover in this session, more a kind of they are infrastructure or platform. In case of software, there are other applications. Maybe going further, I'll give an idea about that. But just take an example, infrastructure as a service is virtual machine, platform as a service is your ADF.
Okay. Yeah, but
Now, let's go back. Let's understand what all advantages and disadvantages we have here. Now, in case of infrastructure as a service, there are a few advantages. What advantages we have? We have a flexibility to manage servers and maybe scalability. Now, what do you mean by scalability? how amount of services can be utilized using that server. What is your availability of a server? So scalable, how long that server is available, whether is it available throughout the day, all 24 hours, or whether there is a downtime on daily basis to make sure that application is not getting clogged on daily basis. So somewhere scalability also is an important factor in case of infrastructure as a service. So we can install and maybe we can manage that. I mean, we have manual flexibility to operate the application. You can go back and change your what we want. I mean, servers, or might be you want a better storage, you can increase that storage also. So all these processes can be managed using infrastructure as a service to operate the app storage. So more a kind of flexibility to have scalability and app storage is the biggest advantage. But there are a few limitations also. What do you mean by limitations is, you cannot call it as a straightforward disadvantage. If you're managing that server, you want to enhance that server, decrease that server capacity, you're managing the storage for that application. In that case, there are few disadvantages, may not be exact disadvantages, but a limitation. Now, what limitation we have? One of the biggest threat for this is security. One of the biggest threat for infrastructure as a service is your security, because we are managing that server. In case some other person is accessing our credentials and utilizing that server to increase its scalability or decrease its scalability, it's a security issue, because he has accessed our credentials, he has accessed our server, or maybe he has accessed our storage also. So security is one of the biggest threat in case of infrastructure as a service. So in order to overcome that infrastructure as a service security threat, there are many security services which are available in Azure. Security services. Now, how that security services work is, they will make sure that your application is correctly managed by a certain set of people only. Even if some other person is coming and accessing that application, even if he knows the credentials, it will always ask you for multi-factor authentication. It will go back and authenticate some other details if it feels that some other person is logging from different IP. So all this is managed by a security application. These security applications are called as software as a service. Now, there are a few applications. I'm not sure if anyone would have gone back or heard this name, Defender. There is a application. If you're using any Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Outlook also, sometimes you need to install this Defender application to make sure no one other is accessing that Outlook or Teams with your office credentials. So Defender, Microsoft Defender, it's a security software as a service product. It's an application which is protecting your Microsoft other services. There is Sentinel service. This is also a software as a service which is available in the Azure. So we may not discuss about these two services in detail, but these two services are a kind of security services which will act, or which will make sure that some other person is accessing your application. It will go back and authenticate them, whether you are right person or not. Now, apart from security threat, there is some other threat also, which is present in infrastructure, but this is one of the biggest threat. I mean, the other discussion is the other access or the other limitation is not that important. It is more a kind of networking and service delays. Now, what do you mean by networking and service delays? If you're managing any server, if you're managing any storage, if that storage is not available throughout the day, if there is a delay, that is also a limitation, right? If a person wants to access that any specific application, but if the storage and server is not available at that time, that means there is a delay. So how to manage this delay? How to make sure the services are easily, managed without any downtime? So all this can be a kind of limitation also. If you feel that number of logins for a certain duration is very low, between that time, you can have the service delays. So you have to manage, go back and check every time that what is the best suitable time where the number of people accessing any service is in low numbers. So in that specific time frame only, you have to go back and check whether we can manage any delays here. If there is some drawback, if there is some limitation, we can go back and check. We can update that, and then we can make sure the service is again easily available for the other individuals. So security issue and networking or service delays are the limitations for this infrastructure as a service. Now coming down to platform as a service, it also has some advantages and disadvantages. See, these are all straightforward advantages and disadvantages. If you go back and check, maybe in case of cloud, there are many other approaches, there are many other advantages also. But from our point of perspective, what you need to understand that we are discussing. Yeah. Someone has a question. Yeah, Samira, you have a question.
This is Anand here. I raised my
Hey,
hand.
Anand.
So I got a little confused because you said security is an issue, right? And you talked about network as well. But isn't networking managed by Azure Cloud Services when you took IaaS with them?
Okay, so this you can make sure this is with respect to third-party applications.
Okay. So you're not third party.
Yeah, this is not with respect to virtual machine. This is with respect to any application which is used by some other people who are using cloud as a service provider. May not be cloud services, but services which are based on cloud, which are dependent on cloud, not the cloud services.
Okay.
Now coming down to platform as a service. See, in case of platform as a service, there are no as such limitations, but there are few main advantages. It's cost effective because everything is managed by the infrastructure is managed by the organization. You only get a platform. Where do you want to use that infrastructure? Where do you want to install that? So it is cost effective compared to infrastructure as a service. Now, second advantage is faster. Why is it faster? Because we need not make sure what is your server, how to connect it, how to mention your login credentials, all that requirement is not there. The thing is, you can download that application from wherever you want. I mean, whichever website or whichever Play Store, App Store you want, you can go back and download it. The only thing is you need to have a good login credentials. You need to have a good or clean operating system so that you can use that platform. So it is faster as compared to any infrastructure as a service. Now, coming down to software as a service, day-to-day usage is your WhatsApp. Even these security services are software as a service. But in terms of third-party applications, WhatsApp, because somewhere WhatsApp has also a background cloud for it. Facebook has a cloud which is attached to this WhatsApp. So for WhatsApp also, what we are doing, we are installing it. That's it. Directly we are logging and we are accessing the data. We are sending SMSs, chats, everything can be done there. So WhatsApp is your software as a service. And if you want some advantage of this, it's a straightforward advantage. There is no need to manage where your images are stored. There is no need to manage where your storage, if your storage is increasing. If your phone storage is also low, sometimes this WhatsApp would not work. But if you're sending an image, it was not getting stored in your local system, right? It is somewhere getting stored in the cloud. So that is how the management is done. More a kind of applications which are managed by complete organizations who are developing, that's purely a software as a service. So the advantages of software as a service is cheapest, easily download and upgrade. You can update it, right? At whatever times you want, you can upgrade it. Now, how different is platform and how different is software as a service is? See, here we have few limitations, but these are not that important. Now, what do you mean by limitation here in case of platform? Because you are installing that application in a certain operating system, right? From that operating system, you want to move that application to a different operating system. There is some issue, right? You will face some issues. Maybe you are moving an application from Windows to Mac, or maybe from Mac to Windows. That migration is not easily done. So limitation here is migration. Migration from OS to OS, from one OS to different OS. So this is the one basic limitation which you face or which you have it in platform as a service. In case of software as a service, it is the cheapest accepted. I mean, cheap in case of infrastructure, in case of platform, it is the least cheapest. But apart from cheap, there are few disadvantages also, or maybe there are few limitations as well. Now, what limitations we have in case of software as a service? Now, what limitations we have? Easily downloadable, easily upgradable. What can be any limitation? Think on this. What can be a limitation here? I've given one example. WhatsApp is your software as a service application. What can be our limitations? Maybe your email is also software as a service. Any email, your Gmail, your Yahoo, your Hotmail, all these are software as a service. But if you're facing some issues while connecting these applications, that are called as limitations. One advantage is it allows multi-tenancy. It allows multi-tenancy. Any limitations which you can think with respect to this app? Forget about software as a service. With respect to these apps, what limitations can you think?
Storage.
May not be storage. I mean, I don't feel that storage is maybe managed by us somewhere.
Make any changes to the software. We should use it as
And that is limitation.
Security. Data security.
Can be. Data security can be. Not normal security, but be kind of data security. Whatever data we are sharing inside that app, yes, it is a limitation. Any other limitation which you can think with respect to these applications?
Yeah, slow speed, high speed.
See, that is somewhere managed by the speed is, if you have a good internet connectivity, then maybe it can be handled. It is not that difficult. Data security is good. See, if you want to use this WhatsApp or email, sometimes some of these applications doesn't work properly on some of the browsers. Browser compatibility.
It's like a latency. You need to fix some bandwidth. Entire the.
Not the latency. See, some browsers support some of the applications, some other browsers support the other applications. Okay, these two are widely used applications. Maybe you can access it directly, but there are few softwares which only runs on Google Chrome with that specific latest version of Google Chrome, more than 10.2 version, 10.3 version. So there are some limitations, right? If you want to use that website, if you want to use that application. So it's not about latency, it's a kind of compatibility, browser compatibility. Any other limitation which you can think?
Probably you won't be able to make a lot of customizations, I guess.
May not be customization, but we can call it as compliance issue. Now, what do you mean by compliance issue? See, so there are a few applications which restrict entering some information which cannot be shared outside, but still you try to enter that information, which is a compliance issue. Your personal identification information, if you're sharing, and if someone has, or some security breach happened with this software, your information is widely spread across. The best example is your WhatsApp. You share your email credentials, you share maybe WhatsApp or email also. Somewhere by chance, default also, if you have received some junk mail, you click on that junk mail, it will automatically send multiple emails on daily basis. So it's a compliance issue because they are tracking our personal information. So we have to go back and see what all compliance default check-in options are available for the browsers, make sure that are disabled, and then only you are using these services, the software as a services. So very few set of limitations, but these are important limitations for software as a service. Your compatibility, your data security, and with this data security, somewhere it is related to the compliance issue also. Any questions on these limitations or advantages for these services? Any questions on these limitations or advantages?
Yeah, I have one general question. Previously, last month, somewhere, the cloud system is stuck out and banking and every online. Uh,
The
uh,
CrowdStrike.
yeah, cloud. This is also cloud, right?
Yep,
So that
CrowdStrike is
time the
also
company
cloud.
will pay back the money for us or any kind of thing.
Very good. You have raised this issue. I was expecting someone to raise. See, somewhere around 1 month back, there was a CrowdStrike issue. CrowdStrike is nothing but an external accessible application which is present on top of any Windows. If you're using your Windows, on top of Windows, there is an external app which is present or which is called as CrowdStrike. So your Windows is managed by Microsoft. So if there was a downtime because of this CrowdStrike third-party application, this is not purely third-party because somewhere it is clubbed with Windows only. So more a kind of access-related software it was. So if there is a downtime with respect to CrowdStrike, neither the Windows was starting accurately. Blue screen issue, all that issue persisted, right? So the question was whether that companies pay that amount. It is not the amount which is paid. Microsoft had to face a very huge loss. The numbers are very high. The numbers are very high. Apart from loss also, forget, maybe they can recover it going further. But there are many organizations for whom this Windows was, I mean, if you have a license to Windows, you have a full-fledged right to have, go back, make sure you sue that Microsoft also. You can have a case on them. There are many organizations who sued this Microsoft. They had to pay, I mean, the amount which the altogether many organizations sued this Microsoft is somewhere around $20 billion. $20 billion. Why? Because they had to face a loss of 1 day. They had purchased Microsoft official license Windows. Still, I'm not sure what went wrong with Microsoft on that specific day, but many organizations had to face losses, including one of the biggest example is our Indian Railways. The railway system was not accurate on that day. Many trains were delayed, your ticketing system was not working properly. So many organizations had to have a case on them on Microsoft. It was somewhere around aggregated 20 billion US dollars. So it is very important for any organization who is working on all these aspects, including cloud, including your any operating system, they have to go back and make sure if you are sending, if you are asking an individual to purchase it, and if you're not giving a service, that means that company has every right to ask your money back. Yes, it's the organization who is working on that specific application. They have every right, or maybe they have to pay that amount because if some other person is using your application with your paid service, that person can ask you that because of your service, there was a downtime, I cannot use it. Now, going back to the hierarchy of cloud. What do you mean by hierarchy? What all components are present in cloud? That we would be discussing. See, whenever you access this cloud, so more specific, we would be talking about Azure. How to access this cloud is simply mention portal.azure.com. This is your URL. This is your standard URL to access your Azure portal. Anyone, even without your email IDs, you can access it. The thing is, if you log in with your Gmail, if you log in with your KSR credentials, for the people who have joined with Power BI, they might have got your KSR email credentials. You can log in them. Once you log in, somewhere this will look like this. This is our default cloud portal. For you, you may not get all these options because you haven't activated the cloud as of now. Only you have logged in. Once you logged in, you need to activate. How that activation happens, what is the flow of information that we would be discussing. This is my KSR email ID. You can see the KSR email ID is clearly mentioned. Now, once the email ID is shared, I would recommend to use the KSR email ID because it is very easy to get cloud access. If you use your Gmail email IDs, sometimes there is a very high chance that, may not be sometimes, but most of the times there is a very high chance that it would be rejected. Because what Microsoft thinks is, with your 30 days of free credits which you're getting, you're utilizing it for your own individual perspective, may not be for some temporary purpose. This 20,000 credits should be used for temporary purpose only, not to connect some real-time applications. If you connect that real-time application with this free credits, that application would be somewhere, I mean, after 30 days, if the credits are over, that application would not work properly. So that is the reason they are requesting to use some domain email IDs, and KSR has a good connect with the team. I mean, we have requested the Microsoft that whomsoever is logging this with the KSR credentials, make sure you're giving you 30 days of free trial with that free credits which we are getting. Now, once you log in, for you, the view would be different. The view would be totally different. Now, how that view will look like, let me give you an idea. So I would be logging a different portal with different email ID. Portal.azure.com. It is asking me to log in. So if you log in for the very first time, this is how the view should look like. Welcome to Azure. You cannot utilize any service. Okay, you can access the portal, but if you want to utilize storage account, click on storage account. See, it is asking you what kind of service you want to activate. Start with free trial, directly start with paid services, or there is an option for accessing student benefits. This student benefits is usually utilized by some universities or some colleges, not by us. I mean, we don't have that flexibility. We cannot utilize this. And this is more a kind of directly exploring component. Now, how these three components vary is, in case of start with free trial, see, this is usually given for organizations who is going back and requesting Microsoft that if some person is logging with so-and-so domain email ID, so in case of KSR, it's a KSR consultant services, you should give, or Microsoft should give us some 200 free credits for maybe 1 month. After that, then if we think if every application is working properly as per our expectation, we might go ahead with pay-as-you-go subscription. Now, second one is manage Microsoft Entra ID. This is directly paid service from day one. Usually, organizations always start with free trial and then they move to this paid. There are many few organizations, or maybe there are many also, and there are, in case of India, I mean, in case of the Indian continent, or maybe India, the Asian continent, or maybe Indian subcontinent, many organizations go with free trial and then they move to the Entra ID, which is a paid service. In case of other parts of the world, maybe you're looking about US. There are few organizations who knows the importance of any cloud that doesn't require any free trial. They directly jump to this paid service. But as I've said, limitations, there are few advantages also to start with free trial, because you will get a basic idea of 1 month, then you can access the paid services. So it depends on which organization, how they are managing. This last one is students benefits. Now, what do you mean by student benefits is, see, if you're even you can utilize it. I'm not saying you cannot utilize. In case of student benefits, if I click on explore, see, if you click here, there are a few learning paths. This is your free learning path. Now you can explore what all learning paths are there. Maybe you can click on developer. In case of developer, these many learning paths are there. So you have to complete any of the one learning path. You can take a look at this Azure Fundamentals, which is the basic learning path. If you click on this, it will launch a course which is maximum duration of 1 hour. After you complete this course, this is, see, there is a beginner level course. This is for data analyst, data engineer. So for us, a developer option, and under this developer option, if you want to understand this, how the students benefit, how to explore the student options we have, you can explore these options. You have to launch this course. There some around 10 to different pages will come. You have to understand, you have to read them. Once you are done with this learning path, you will get 1 hour free cloud access. But that free cloud access would be in a small window, not a complete window. A small window, that small window is called as sandbox. You will only get for 1 hour. And if you are utilizing that sandbox for any real-time application, your email ID would be blocked. Why? Because sandbox is only given to understand or to give you an idea only for specific students only, not for any real-time use case. So recommended is, if you want to utilize the student benefit, you have to complete that course. After completing the course, depending on the points, every course has certain points, explore points. So depending on your points, it might be 1 hour or 2 hours of sandbox access. Sandbox is nothing but a prototype of your cloud. A same cloud prototype would be created. What you can access in cloud, that same processes can be accessed inside that small window. But as I've said, if you're loading some data which is used by real-time applications, that application or that sandbox would be blocked. For us, the approach is free trial to intra managed ID, which is paid service. So we would be using this approach. Again, going back to the cloud, go to the home tab. This is how the home tab looks like once you log in for the very first time. By this weekend, probably, or maybe the next weekend, start of very next weekend, the email IDs would be shared for the one who are joining new. I'll again explain how to activate this. See, for free trial, you have to click on start. This is how it looks. You have to click on try Azure for free. It will ask you to log in. It will ask you to log in. See, once you log in, it will ask you to mention the basic details. So it will take some time first. Probably on this email ID, I have already activated. Okay, this is how you'll get. You have to first click on agreement, create your Azure free account, some 13,000 Indian rupees to use in your first 30 days. See, it is clearly mentioning. And out of that, there are 55 services. I mean, there are more than 200 services which are present in Azure, but 55 services are always free. Now we have to go back and see what are the free services. For us, as I've discussed, all the services which we would be using are pay as you go. None of the service is free. So you have to click on this agreement. You have to verify your phone. You have to verify the payment card details here. Now, why payment details are required? For first 1 month, it will only verify if your credit card is available or not. It will first take 2 rupees. It will debit that 2 rupees. Again, it would be credited back to your account. So need not worry. For 1 month, you will get this 13,000 Indian rupees or 200 US dollars. You can utilize it, which is more than enough. 8,000 Indian rupees is more than enough. You will again have a bucket of 4,000, which is left over. So how to activate it again, I would be rediscussing maybe the next week, the start of very next week, so that you can again go back and create your accounts. Now coming back to the Azure portal, which I already have an access. Once you log into that portal, the very first thing you have to do is you have to make sure is you need to have a subscription. You need to have a subscription. Now, what do you mean by subscription? If you want to access any OTT application also, your Amazon Prime, your Netflix, or maybe any application, movies application, you need to have a subscription. You need to get a subscription. Only then you can view any movies or the web series there. So the same concept is utilized in Azure portal or maybe any cloud portal. You need to have a subscription. Now, how this subscription varies is, see, take an example of KSR again. Maybe we have registered as an organization. So once you are registered as an organization, there is a specific ID assigned to you. With that ID, you can create a subscription. Now, what do you mean by specific ID? This specific ID is called as tenant ID. The specific ID is called as tenant ID. I'll go back. This is our domain. This is our tenant ID. So under this domain, how many users are there? How many groups we have created? How many applications we have used up till now? How many devices are getting connected? All that information is captured. Here I can see this is not with respect to my team. This is not with respect to my batches. This is with respect to complete KSR domain, which are active. These are all the active users. 2437 are the active users as of now, or who has a valid email ID. So if you want to activate your cloud portal, you need to have a subscription. But prior to subscription, if any organization is joining that specific cloud portal, there are three methods, or maybe there are three different approaches. A company might be enterprise company. A company might be partner, or a company might be a direct company. Now, these three are ways to join a cloud. This is with respect to Azure, or maybe this is common with the AWS as well. Now, how the customer join is either by enterprise segment, either by partner segment, or either by direct segment. Now, what do you mean by enterprise, partner, and direct segment? Let me take an example. Now, if you're taking an example of any large scale organization, take an example of Walmart. So Walmart is a very large scale organization who are using Azure in most of their services. A Walmart, if they are trying to access this Azure services or Azure cloud, just because it's a very large scale organization, they would be always a part of enterprise segment. Now, what do you mean by partner-led segment? Prior to understanding partner-led segment, we need to understand direct segment. A person who want to access any cloud who is directly coming and logging to that cloud portal is called as a direct customer. It might be an individual, it might be a group of people. Group of people also, it is possible, but they are directly approaching the cloud service. In that case, they are called as direct customers. We know Walmart is a very large scale organization. That is the reason they have kept in enterprise segment. But if a small scale organization is reaching out to Microsoft that we want access for cloud, in that case, they may not respond it because they may not, they doesn't know that we are a large scale organization. So either you have to enter via direct segment. From direct segment, you can move to the partner segment. From partner segment, you can move to the enterprise segment. And if Microsoft thinks that your organization is large enough, you're utilizing multiple services on day-to-day basis, yes, they can move it. They can move you from direct to partner, partner to enterprise. Now, how these customers are moved, how the movement is done is KSR have joined as a direct segment customer only. Why we have joined with a direct segment is not every time on daily basis there are all the people who are part of KSR. If there are 2,000 students who are actively, who are active students or they are part of certain batch which is going in KSR. Not every 2000 individuals would be accessing cloud on daily basis, right? Maybe 20, 30, 40, or maybe some 100, 150 people from certain batches would be using this cloud on daily basis. After that 150 people, the other 150 people would be using. So somehow the number of people are limited. So that is the reason we have gone with a direct segment. Now, what do you mean by partner-led segment? What do you mean by partner-led segment? See, partner-led segment is if Microsoft thinks that person has joined a direct segment and they are utilizing the Azure services very frequently. In that case, what they would give you a partnership. Now, what do you mean by partnership? They would give you certain discounts. Certain offers are shared with you. So somewhere they're trying to have a partnership with you that you are utilizing Azure services on day-to-day basis. Your usage is good. Maybe you have joined as a direct customer. What we feel is we can give a partnership. We can give certain discounts or offer to you. We can have some discussion. Depending on that, they would be moving your direct segment to a partner segment. And many organizations would move from partner segment to enterprise segment also. I mean, you can directly join any segment. There is no as such harm. But the thing is, Walmart is very large. That is the reason they are directly put into enterprise segment. But assume that there is some XYZ company. XYZ company, and that company is very new. Even Microsoft people doesn't know. So in that case, that company would be always joined as a direct segment. Or else there is a feasibility that if that company proves that we have 400 people who want to use cloud on daily basis, they would go back and check with the Microsoft, or you can raise an email request using Azure portal that we have certain number of peoples. I want to have a good partnership with you. Can you give me certain discounts and offers? So if Microsoft thinks everything is valid, they would make sure that XYZ customer, there is a partnership with them. After certain duration, if they think that the number of services they are utilizing on day-to-day basis is more, revenue generated is more, they can move from partner to enterprise segment. So how a customer joins? Under 3 segments. One is direct segment, one is partner segment, and one is enterprise segment. Now ours is direct segment. For any customer who is joining this cloud portal, and once they join that cloud portal with a certain domain, that domain or that certain email ID will always have a tenant ID. This tenant ID is common for all you people. If you will get a KSR email, this tenant ID is common because this tenant ID is with respect to organization, not with respect to individual. So whenever a person is joining any company, an email ID is given, right? Unique email ID is there. That same way, if a person is joining this cloud, if he's getting into cloud portal, he's trying to get a new subscription, they would be assigned a tenant ID. A unique tenant ID, but tenant ID is assigned at organization level, not at individual level. So after this tenant ID, there is one more concept which is called as TPID. Now, what do you mean by TPID? Again, let's take an example of Walmart. Or maybe your Motorola. Any example, any large scale organization you're trying to take an example, maybe Lenovo, your HP. So these are all the large scale organizations. So for these large scale organizations, there are many subsidiaries as well. Now, if you take a look at Walmart, Walmart US is different, Walmart India is different, but maybe Walmart in European countries is different. So we have multiple subsidiaries. So if any organization is joining, Walmart cannot have one unique tenant ID, right? There are many other subsidiaries also. In that case, it would be a very big confuser. So in order to avoid, usually for enterprise customers, this TPID concept will come into picture. For enterprise or maybe for some partner customers also. For direct customers, it is directly tenant ID. Now, how this TPID and tenant ID I mean, exactly where he is. Assume that HP is coming to Microsoft that we want cloud services access. I mean, we already know how large the HP is. So they would always place them in the enterprise segment. But HP has also many subsidiaries. HP US, HP Brazil, HP India, maybe HP UK, Germany. So there are multiple subsidiaries. So for them, how the information is bifurcated, how our ID shared is, HP will always have a unique TPID. TPID is nothing but a top parent ID. Tenant ID is tenant ID. Above tenant ID, there is a top parent ID. So for HP, they would first give you a top parent ID. Assume that top parent ID is somewhere HP 12345 6. This is your top parent ID. Whereas in case of tenant IDs, how this information is said, tenant ID for India HP would be somewhere HP IND 1234 like this. Again, for USA HP, they would have a different tenant ID, HP USA, maybe 2345. But all these tenant IDs are mapped to one single top parent ID. We might have multiple subsidiaries. Every subsidiary has their own tenant ID, but all these tenant IDs are mapped to one single top parent ID. That is how the hierarchy of information flows in this cloud. I'll take a pause of a minute. Any questions on these IDs? How IDs are given inside cloud? And how a customer is joining any specific cloud, what all segments are present. See, this information is not easily available anywhere because this is more a kind of background of cloud. You need to know basics of cloud, only then you'll understand what you mean by cloud, how it works. Okay, silence, I'm taking it as no. Then let's go further. Once the IDs are given, you need to have a subscription, right? One tenant can have multiple subscriptions. You can create n number of subscriptions. Subscription is the highest level in terms of cloud services accessibility. Once the IDs are given, the tenant IDs or TPIDs are given, and how are you joining? The segments are decided. The first thing is you need to activate your subscription. Without your tenant, without your subscription, also you can go back and check the portal. I've given you an idea. This is the portal. You can go back and check it. But you cannot check whether you have a valid tenant ID or not. If I hover on this, see, there is a directory and there is some ID also present for this. This is what the tenant ID is. But I haven't activated any subscription. Yet a tenant ID is given. Now, after tenant ID, after what kind of segment you have joined, the concept comes to subscription. Subscription is how to access cloud. That depends on your subscription. And there are no different ways. Subscription is common here. In case if you take a look at Amazon Prime, there are different subscriptions, right? 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. Here, that isn't the case. If you activate your subscription, it will not going to charge you one single penny. Subscription is only to activate your cloud services. We are not activating the individual services there. After subscription, there is a component called as resource group. And after resource group, there is a component called as resources. What do you mean by resources? Your services are also called as resources. So one tenant can have multiple subscription. One subscription can have multiple resource groups. One subscription, multiple resource groups are present. And anyways, one resource or one services are grouped together in a resource group. So what do you mean by resources or services? ADF is one resource. SQL Server is one resource. Your virtual machine is one resource. The resources which are available inside cloud are called as resources or services. Now, first level is subscription. Once you activate your subscription also, it will not going to charge you 1 rupee. Inside this subscription, it is always recommended to create resource groups. Why resource groups is required? Why cannot you directly create services inside subscription? Why you need to have a resource group? Reason is, take an example of any project. You're working on any project. Now, in that project, there can be multiple teams, right? A very large scale project or even a small scale project also, there are multiple teams. So assume that team A, team B, and we have team C. So if team A is using ADF, is using SQL, team B is using Databricks, these are all the resources or services, and is using Synapse. And team C is using some virtual machine. And team C is also utilizing some the Azure SQL DB. So we have three different teams. Now the thing is, if you go ahead and create ADF, sometimes if team B thinks that I want to access this ADF, they can directly go and access it. I mean, it's a part of that same subscription, right? A team can have only one subscription. The thing is, if this team B also wants to utilize virtual machine, the only option left out is they have to go back and use this virtual machine, but it is a part of team C. So why these resource groups are required is, for team A, there would be one resource group. In that resource group, ADF and, I mean, we have two services, right? Two services are grouped together. In case of team B, earlier we had two services, but they want to utilize virtual machine. Either they have to check with team C, can we use this virtual machine? If team C is okay with that, then they can go ahead. If team C is not okay, you have to create one more virtual machine. In that case, that virtual machine which you are creating newly is a part of team B only. So you can keep that virtual machine as a separate resource group. And for these resource group, we have three services here. And in the last component, we have one more resource group where we can have two services clubbed together under that resource group. The reason to have resource group is make sure all the services are clubbed together in one single group. Services which are used by specific teams, specific individuals also, you can group that services. So one subscription, I mean, one tenant can have multiple subscriptions. One subscription can have multiple resource groups, and every resource group has multiple services clubbed together in them.
Subscriptions are transferable?
Yes, you can transfer your subscription from one tenant to different tenant. You can transfer your resource group from one subscription to different subscription also. You can transfer your resources from one resource group to different resource group. That means you can transfer from one subscription to different subscription. All that possibility is present. There were few limitations few years back, but now nothing. There is no limitation. I'll show you how is it. Let me go back.
But when you set up the subscription, whatever privileges are assigned, correct? The settings, those will inherit, right?
See, so you had a subscription with KSR email ID, and you want to move that subscription to some XYZ email ID, XYZ domain email ID. Now, what all accesses we had, that admin accesses would be shared. But once it is moved from KSR to XYZ domain, in that case, they have to go back and manage how do you want to make sure your subscription should look alike. I mean, what all accesses you want, what kind of steps or what kind of, how many people you want to get that the subscription to be locked in. So all that is managed by that XYZ domain admin person. Complete accesses would not be shared. Admin access would be shared. You have to manage it. You have to make sure whom do you want to share that. It varies.
So first you have to put this subscription on hold and then create another subscription with the same name, or
no, not required. You can directly move it. that step is not required. You can directly move a subscription.
Fine. Thank you.
So for this email, for this KSR, with my email, there's one subscription which is active. This is the subscription name. So if you want to create a new subscription, you have an option here. Click on new subscription. It will check an offer for you. So you can start your subscription with free trial, which I have already done. That is the reason it is grayed out. There is pay as you go or Azure for students. Only two options are left out for me. It is only for me, not for the complete domain. For you, you would be getting this free trial.
Yeah, I have
Right,
one
but
doubt on this. What about Azure for students?
I've already informed. Azure for students, you have to complete some learn modules. You'll get 1-2 hours of free access, not more than that. But you cannot utilize it for your practice. Maybe only to understand the architecture, you can use it, not more than that. And Sandbox has many restrictions.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Now, I already have this subscription. You can see all that information for this subscription is mentioned. What is the billing period? What amount is generated previously? What is the current amount? What is the current amount? All that information is mentioned here. What is the offer ID? What is the offer type? Pay as you go subscription. My role is account admin. So the information which basically is required, all that information is kept here. Now, under this subscription, as I've said, if you scroll down, inside this settings option, there is an option called as resource group. There is also an option for resources. Resource group is second level of hierarchy after subscription, and then resources is the third level of hierarchy. If you directly want to create a resource also, let's go back. I want to directly create a resource or a service. Now there are two services which are created. I want to create a new service. Let me click here. What kind of service? I want to create virtual machine. I'll click on virtual machine. See, even if you are directly creating any service or resource, it is asking you which subscription should be correct. If you have default only one subscription, it will select that subscription. Second option itself is the resource group. It is always recommended to have a resource group created. Without resource group, you cannot create any resource or service directly. So again, I have a list of resource groups which are automatically created or maybe which are already created previously. I can use either of the resource group, or you want to create a new resource group, you have a flexibility here. Click on new, it will create a new resource group for you. You can give it any random name. The name should not be repeated. That's it. Under this subscription, same resource group should not be repeated. In different subscription, you can have the same name because it's a part of different subscription. Repeated names are not required inside that specific subscription or inside that specific resource group also. So after subscription, it is always recommended to create a resource group. You want to directly create a resource also, it will always ask you to group or create a new resource group while creating a service. Services and resources are same. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's like a full file structure, right?
Yep,
Folder groups. Okay. And when you transfer subscription, right, from one domain to another, it is done through the customer service, or we can do it online. There's a
See, it depends. If you have an admin access, we have that flexibility, you can move it. But the thing is, if you are moving it to the different domain, that different domain should have a Entra ID. With that domain should be registered inside this Azure only. I mean, that domain should be part of Azure, the Microsoft account. Only then you can move it. If that domain is not a part of Microsoft, 99% chances are there the subscription cannot be moved. It has
so
to be
during the transfer, it will look up whether that exists or not. If it exists, then it will transfer.
Yep.
Okay.
If it doesn't exist, then we have to go back and create that domain.
Understood.
Now we have seen how a service can be created. What is the subscription? What is the resource group? And what are the resources or services under that resource group? Now let's see an example again. I'll go back. I have created a few services here or resources here. I'll click on this one of the resource. In the overview tab, you have an option called as move. Move to another subscription, move to another resource group. You have this option. This is
Right,
this
but
specific. Yep, go ahead.
yeah, but that must be within the same domain, right?
Yep, same domain.
Oh,
So you
makes
can
sense.
have a look here. The server name is your KSR, whatever server name we have created. It is a part of, all that information is present, which is related to this server, the SQL server. So it is a part of KSR Data Vision Resource Group. You have an option to move here. It is a part of KSR Practice subscription. You can move it from this subscription to a different subscription also. Either from this option or else there is a move option which is also available at resource group level or subscription level once you click on any specific service. Movement is easily done. I have only one resource group. Sorry, I have only one subscription. That is the reason I cannot do this. But for movement of resource group, yes, I can do that. If I click on move, so it is asking us, target resource group cannot be same. I have to select which resource group I want to move out. Maybe if I select this, click on next, that movement would be automatically done. SQL Server, which was earlierly created inside this KSR Data Vision, it is moved to this different ADF Ritesh Fabric resource group. It's a very straightforward movement.
So Ritesh, what exactly is moving? The services that you have in that resource
Yep,
group?
yep.
Okay.
The services which we have created or the service which we have clicked on it. I am only moving server. I want to move the database. See, once you create a server, only then the database can be created. This is more a kind of SQL server with database. Azure SQL doesn't require any server. Automatically database would be created. Server is automatically managed by Microsoft team. That is the difference between SQL Server and Azure SQL. Both are same. In case of SQL Server, server should also be created and managed by us. Whereas in case of Azure SQL, only database is created. Server is managed by Azure. So let me go to resource group. If I click on any of the resource group, how many services are part of that resource group are listed out here. Either you can create a service or resource from here, or else you can directly go to resources and create from there. Even there is a feasibility. Any questions on this resources? Subscriptions, resource groups, or resources?
Are there any settings for resource group, like how we do this settings for subscription when we do the original setup?
Not straightforward. See, if you click on this resource group, click on new resource group. You can create a new resource group here, or else while creating the service itself, it will ask you what should be the new resource group. You can name there also. You can create that directly while creating any service as well. Not much settings are there, straightforward. Click on next, review and create. That's it. A resource group would be created. Let's do that.
Then how the access is decided on
The
on
access
those
is
resources?
different. Access is different. Accesses are given at the subscription or resource group level. I'll show that maybe not today, because first you need to have the account. Only then the accesses can be shared. To answer this, yes, accesses can be shared. Maybe I can show you one example, but let me give you an idea. Right? A resource group is created here. Straightforward resource group, a new resource group is created. See, if you have a blank subscription, if you have a blank resource group, there are no resources present, or there are no services present inside resource group, or there are no services present inside that subscription. It will not charge you 1 rupee also, or maybe one single penny. Unless you create any resources or services, that would be charged. Now, how to give access? See, if I click on this resource group, there is an option called as access control. This access control option is present for resource group also. This action control is also present for subscription also, access control. Or else if I go to resources, if I click on SQL Server, inside this SQL Server also, this is individual service or resource. Here also access control is there. So how you want to give access at the resource level, at the resource group level, or at the subscription level? It is up to us. Now, if I click on access control, this is at resource level. I can add a person who already has an email ID. I can add a role. Maybe I give you an idea. What kind of role you want to add? I want to add it as a monitoring reader, not more than that. He only wants to, or maybe I can add it as a reader. Click on reader, go to next. You would be added as a reader. Whom you want to add? A person who already has KSR email ID, I can check them. I can add his name, he can check. If he has an access for this, I mean, he has activated that subscription or he has activated the Azure portal, he can directly come and utilize my subscription also, or not complete subscription, but under that subscription, one of the resource. But I'm adding him as a reader. He cannot edit anything. He can only read the data. So this is how accesses are given at resource level, at resource group level, or at subscription level also. If you give at subscription level, all the resource group which are part of that subscription, all the resources which are part of multiple resource group, everything would be shared. But if you only want to give access to one of the resource, come down to resource level, make sure you are only giving access at the resource level.
Same like file folder structure.
Yep, file folders.
Hi, Ritesh.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I might have missed, sorry. What is the use case of creating multiple subscription exactly under the same tenant?
Can you please repeat your question?
A single tenant can have multiple subscriptions, right?
Right.
So what is exactly the use case? Why multiple subscriptions have to be
If there
created?
are two different teams working, you can have two different subscription also, two different resource groups is also possible. There are multiple ways. You want to share, you want to give a two different subscription, even that is feasible.
Two different subscription means each subscription would be charged separately, right?
Right.
So why exactly two has to be created? Like I wanted to.
It depends. If that project or organization wants two different subscriptions, they can go ahead and create it. Maybe one is for development team, one is for the testing team, one is for production support team. Every team will have their own subscriptions.
But the charges will be separate, right?
Yeah, charges would be separate. See, charges are not for subscription, charges are not for resource group. It is number of resources which are created inside that subscription. If you have a blank subscription, blank resource group, it will not cost you one single penny. But if you create some resources, depending on the usage of that resources, it would be charged.
So why can't I do one subscription for all?
So when you have to mute.
Any other questions?
So regarding the access control, right? So let's say, for example, it's a resource type is SQL server, other Azure SQL. So the access, are we giving it to the data itself or to the resource?
Complete resource. So whatever data is present inside that resource also can be utilized or can be checked.
Okay.
But what kind of access you're given? Reader access, read, write access, read and edit access is also there. You can read and only edit it. You cannot write anything. Existing can be changed, but new things cannot be added. So there are multiple roles.
So you can create roles and assign roles. Okay.
Yeah. So Sunita has a question, why can't we use only one subscription? See, one subscription for us as a direct customer, for us, we are working individually, we can have only one subscription, not required to have multiple. If the organization is very big enough, they can have multiple subscriptions. They have kept that option.
So the access will inherit from the top from tenant, correct? And then at the resource level, let's say if you want to modify access to only one of the resources, okay? then we should be doing at the resource level, right?
Right.
Whereas all the other resources under that tenant will inherit the what we have given at the top.
Yep.
Fine. Thank you.
We can connect back tomorrow with further discussions. I was waiting for any other questions if you want to clarify. Okay, there are no questions.
Can you go back to that hierarchy you wrote? You
Okay.
mentioned some. Yeah,
Yep.
just people who came late so they can.
Yep, sure.
We're good, sir. Thank you. Have a good day, all.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Let's connect back tomorrow. Have a very good day.